Hello and welcome to the Last Movie Outpost. I'm your host today, Boba Phil. Just to briefly mention, we are getting the website, the YouTube channel back on track. We've had a little bit of a downtime, but the website is still up. So you can still go to the Last Movie Outpost for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about film. Today we have a special video going up because we have an exclusive interview with Kristanna Loken. Hello, Kristanna.
Hello, Phil. Nice to be here.
You may recognize Kristanna. She is a model and actress, and she has worked on TV shows like Mortal Kombat Conquest, I'm Happily Ever After, Painkiller Jane, and The L Word. She's also been in movies like Blood Rain, Panic, and probably best known for playing the TX in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. So, Kristanna, you do have a new movie coming out, which is actually tomorrow, the 12th, on streaming, called The Dark Night of the Soul. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Dark Night of the Soul is a film that's really near and dear to my heart for various reasons. Firstly, I loved the script. I loved the depth of the emotional journey of the character, my character Alex, and what she's facing. And we shot it in upstate New York, right near where I grew up. So that added an extra special layer as well. I grew up on a fruit farm there, and so I actually got to visit the farm whilst filming. So there were various levels that I really enjoyed. Tom Malloy, producer, and the gentleman who played my husband in the film, is also a dear friend of mine. Martin Cove was great to work with. He plays my dad. We had a lot of fun together. So all around, the movie starts out, and without giving away a spoiler alert here, well, I should first mention that Dark Night of the Soul, and I don't know if you know this, is a poem. It's an old poem of the same name.
Weirdly,
did you know?
Yeah, I did know that, but weirdly, when I first saw it, there's a British author called Douglas Adams who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but he also wrote a series of books, and one of them was called The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul. And at first, that's what I thought it was, because it's quite a quirky comedy. But yes, I got familiar with the poem after sort of reading the title and then doing some research. Yes, but please carry on.
Okay, well, good. Well, you're one step above most, I think. Backstory there. So Dark Night of the Soul is taken from this old poem, and then it became really a phrase that I was actually unfamiliar with, which is when you're staring death in the face vis-a-vis your dark night, have you completed in your life's journey what you have been meant to complete in your lifetime? And are you ready to let go into the afterlife? Or do you still have work to do? And are you going to be pulled back? I mean, you hear of these kind of near-death stories in people where they see the white light, but then something pulls them back. It's maybe not quite their time. So in essence, this is really Alex's Dark Night of the Soul. She gets into a car accident. She's a very high-ranking scientist at the Center of Disease Control. It's a pandemic. And her husband and daughter were patient 1 and 2 of this pandemic. And she's been on this journey now for about 2 years to try to find a cure. And she hasn't been able to do so yet. And it's been just eating away at her life and her psyche. And after this car accident, she gets pinned underneath. She's in the middle of nowhere. There are no emergency services left. The cell phone dies. I think of 127 Hours. I mean, this is definitely my survival film. Which I personally love survival films because you really see the depth of someone's soul and what they're willing to do and take on for their survival. So through this journey, she has hallucinations through the blood loss that she's experiencing, of conversations that she never had with her father, but would have liked to have had, who's been deceased for 15 years. Conversation she had with her sister, but slightly in a warped mindset, colored differently with now what she's experiencing, who's really her only living family member left. Projections about kind of a reincarnated version of her deceased daughter into this superhero, kind of the daughter's alter ego, if you will, and then conversations with God through this dog, and we don't really know what is real and what is not. And I liked also too the imagination in that timeline and in that mindset. And then, of course, the reality of just the uttermost pain and destruction of not knowing if you're going to live or die and experiencing extreme pain. So all that to say, it's a really intriguing film, and I think our DP Pascal did a wonderful job shooting it. You have to be very innovative in your approach when you're working in a limited space like a car for a large part of the film. It was great for me. I mean, most of my scenes are on my own, so that was a nice, interesting challenge. And
Well,
yeah, it felt like a real art piece, which I love.
I was going to say to you that obviously a good almost 50% of the movie is just kind of you in the car by yourself. How difficult then is that to act? Is it easier or is it better playing off someone?
Um, well, if you're working with someone good,
Yeah.
uh, that's always great. No, I say that tongue in cheek. It really, and we were very fortunate. We had wonderful actors in this film, and everybody really gave their heart and soul to it, and was really a team player. We had a limited amount of time to shoot it. Actually, I've never shot a film as quickly as we shot this one. I think it was under 2 weeks,
Wow.
and it
Oh,
was really.
that's really impressive then, because it turned out fantastically well for a 2 week sort of shoot. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And, a lot of it was shot, which I also enjoyed. And I'm glad SJ, Steve, the director and writer, was game for this. We had a lot of chats beforehand. We really fine tuned the script and honed all the characters and the nuance, the backstory. But he was also interested in shooting it sequentially as much as we could. So a bit
Right.
like a play, and with
Yeah.
large chunks because it is dialogue heavy. The scenes that I do have then with my sister or my dad, which are the two other actors that I work with, briefly with Tom, who plays my husband, and my daughter. But we really tried to shoot those for as many pages together as possible. And I knew this was going to be a really grueling pace shoot. And so I just came in. I basically was prepared for everything and anything, and was ready to go like a play. I had all my scenes down, like we could have shot it from start to end, and I would have been okay because I knew I had to be. There was no margin for any error, and I really, I always give 110% because I love what I do and I'm super passionate about it. But I just knew that this one needed an extra little boost, given that we only had a number of days to do it.
Fantastic. That's. I mean, it's so great to hear. And when actors, I think some people, you know, I don't want to say phone it in, but when people do give that such a good performance, because like I say, because a lot of the film was difficult, obviously, to shoot, reacting to kind of nothing, and also quite in quite painful circumstances, not giving away too many spoilers.
Yeah, yeah, it was awkward for sure because, and I wanted it to be awkward. I mean, I always, obviously you don't want to injure yourself, but you want to be there as present and in the moment of the experience as much as possible. So I wanted it to be awkward and uncomfortable. And SJ and I worked in different arenas of how is she going to be pinned under the car. and I didn't want it to be too comfortable. So, after a week of that, I might have resolved my position. No, it worked in the end. Yeah, it was meant to be uncomfortable, and laying on the ground in the cold and the wet and the whatever. But I love it. I do. I really do, and maybe that's why they hired me for these types of roles, because I'm a team player.
And a real go getter. No matter what he calls for, you're in for it.
That's
You
it.
said you briefly mentioned Martin Cove. It's so strange because obviously as an actor, I recognise him best from like Cobra Kai and Karate Kid and so forth. He always looks quite intimidating, but is he like that in real life?
No, he's not. I know what you mean. He's got a real presence to him, and I could see him coming across that way. But
He's a good bad guy. He's a good bad guy.
right, right, yeah, he's got the good eyebrows, and and he does have
Yeah.
this real strength to him. Um, no, he's really lovely, and what I enjoyed about working with Martin is that he was a very kind, giving actor. Also, really was giving it his all, and was very happy to rehearse a lot, which is great. I'm big on rehearsing. And so yeah, he made himself very available, and he definitely did care, a lot. So, and then of course his son is also in the film. I don't know if you
Yes.
realize that.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
again, looking the movie up, it was funny because it sort of said Jesse Cove, and I was looking at him and sort of, gosh, he really does look like his father.
yeah, yeah. So that was neat. We got to have Jesse and a little fun. They were never on set at the same time, but they were both in the film, so that was great.
Aw. Looking back at some of your early career, just to get off Dark Knight of the Soul for just a second, there's quite a few TV shows that you were in, but fortunately we didn't get them over here in the UK. I mentioned some earlier, but I mean, what was your favourite to work on? Because you've got quite a fond memory of all of those, haven't you?
Yeah, a lot of TV through the years. Yeah, especially in the early days. I think they all played a different kind of role in my life and in my career. Mortal Kombat Conquest was the first series regular job that I had. So that, and it was also really the first action role. And I have a dance background, so learning the stunt choreography was not dissimilar to learning fight choreography. So to me, coming from that, it made a lot of sense. The body positioning was different, but it was like second nature to me. So that is when I really kind of found out, like, oh, maybe action is a good fit for me. Plus, I'm tall, I'm athletic. It just seemed like, yeah, I can do this. And then I did a series called Pensacola Wings of Gold with James Brolin. He played my dad. I don't know if
Right.
you guys got that one over there, but
Again, unfortunately, the kind of the BBC and everything else, they were very sort of homegrown with their stuff, and so the occasional bits and pieces would come through, but unfortunately, yeah, not many of them.
so James was also great to work with, and at that time he was dating. I'm not sure if they were married yet, but Barbara Streisand. So she would come to set occasionally, and she had some wonderful chats with me, like an old auntie or something. Not old, but
Wow.
auntie. You know what I mean? Familiar. And yeah, and so each job, there's always been a takeaway for me that's impacted my life far greater than just the role itself. There's been a lot of lessons involved, and for the very first job I ever had was As the World Turns, when I was 13 years old, the soap opera, and I played like the speed aged daughter of Meg Ryan's character. Meg had just left the show, but then a couple years later, they replaced her character with another actress, and the daughter that was only like a toddler all of a sudden is now 13. So as they do.
In
So
magical Hollywood land.
exactly. So I come back, and my love interest on the show was Jason Biggs of American Pie, later on
Okay.
fame. But we were, just like 13 and 15. And that job really was an amazing learning curve for me, because you do one show per day. You're filming 1 hour of
Wow.
television per day. So you talk about, I have such respect for those actors, because you
Yeah.
need to learn an enormous amount of dialogue. And it's basically all dialogue, it's a soap
Yeah.
opera.
Yeah.
So you're on the sound stage with 4 cameras. So I really got to learn memorization, body positioning, camera angles, and so that was like a vital start. And I did that for about 6 months, and then went
Wow.
on to other shows from there. So yeah, they've all certainly played a role. And then later on, producing films of my own as well. I'm creating my own content, and I collaborated with my father. My father is also a writer, and he wrote a script called Fighting for Freedom, which underscored really the inequity of illegal immigration in the United States, which
Okay.
continues to go on and be a major topic of interest and issue. And Bruce Dern played my dad. What a legend he is! Two-time
Yeah. Yeah.
Academy Award nominee. I've had the opportunity. Sir Ben Kingsley played my dad once in Blood Rain. So I've had this
Wow.
opportunity with some really great people.
Oh yeah.
I'm still looking to work with Helen Mirren. That she's my favorite, and I would love to work with her. I'm just putting it out there in the universe. But no, it's been a good ride.
I can't guarantee that Helen reads the last movie Outpost, but if she does, you never know.
You never know. You never know.
Obviously, Terminator 3 was kind of your biggest role, and what you're best known for. How did that happen? How did you get the role for that?
Well, it was an audition like any other, except it was not any other. But it came through my agent manager, and I was 22, and I remember thinking, okay, this is the job for me. Everything else that perhaps I had been too tall, when I was younger, because I've been tall since I was like 13. I was 5'9". Now my full height is 5'11" and a quarter. But I thought I can be whatever height. There's no restrictions. I can have a deeper voice. I can be athletic. Like, all of these traits of mine will become attributes for this particular role. And it's sci-fi. There's no limitation of, how she can be. So I had been a fan of Robert Patrick in Terminator 2. I was just blown away by his performance and his
It's such
character.
a great character. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
amazing. I didn't believe he was actually human.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not even by trait like an action fan in general, but I was so mesmerized by him and his performance, and it really landed on me. And so when this came around, I remember the Olympics were on, and I felt like I was doing my own Olympic training for just the auditioning process myself. Um, it was about 8 auditions, I would say, in order to get the job, and it was a lot. It was very physical. It was a lot of
Yeah.
running, jumping, looking, falling, and it just seemed to fit. And I remember my parents then also came out for a visit, and we went to dinner after my last one at my favorite restaurant, which is still my favorite restaurant, still there. And they said, and I kind of just had a feeling like, this is it, this is it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
a day or two later, I was on a horseback ride. I'm an equestrian as well, and with a girlfriend of mine, and I get the call saying from the director, Jonathan Mostow, saying, okay, are you ready for your life to change forever as you know it?
Yeah.
Your enemy is going to be gone. And that was it. That was the beginning of the next phase of my journey in life. and the wild ride that it's been.
Oh no! I mean, again, it's one of those things. It's life changing. It's incredible. Um, with it, it was. I did watch it again the other day in preparation, and one thing I did notice is the same with Robert Patrick is there is no emotion from the T series, even irony. Is that then difficult to do because a lot of it is very physical, and of course you kind of want to make those grunting faces. Was it hard to just sort of remain motionless or emotionless?
Yeah, it was Jonathan's idea to have. I did lots of training, all different types of training in preparation for the role. But it was Jonathan's idea to work with a mime coach, which was really the icing on the cake of the performance because working with him, and he was like a Marseille Marceau prodigy, this guy,
Right.
a German gentleman, and you really distance yourself from the human traits of like blinking while
Mm.
firing a weapon, showing exertion while running, things like that, that yeah, you just take for granted. And in every other character that I've played in any action role, it's just part of it. But he worked a lot with external energies, with things, whether it was like, touching metal or the wheel. And it sounds very esoteric, and it is, but it somehow created that barrier of human reality to that kind of one step removed uh, robot esque.
Human, but not human.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are moments in it that I wanted to pepper with a little bit of human traits or also female qualities. I mean, and that was, of course, the big difference between Robert and Arnold's characters and mine. Being a female. So there were moments that I like, well, that I would add in and color it. I mean, of course, this is why every actor is different. They do every performance differently. But like with tasting the blood or
Yeah.
with looking in the mirror, those were just kind of two moments of, for example, that either it's a female moment looking in the mirror or, maybe just a slight human moment because you want to also root for her in some way, even though she's the bad guy, so to speak, you still, and I think if you can relate on some subconscious baseline of
Yeah.
humanity, then you can relate and root for them. And I think that's what's really, really key in any film, in any, I think sometimes action films are devoid of that. And if it's just senseless killing, who cares? You're not invested in the film or in the characters or their journey
Yeah.
or whether they live or die. But you
Yeah.
have to be able to feel for them in some way, and that's always been very important for me in all of my roles.
There's one scene towards the end where you're fighting Arnie and he hits your head and it goes right round. You can't do that in real life, can you?
You cannot, no.
No. Okay. And just
Yeah.
to clarify, the boob thing, that was CG as well.
Well, actually, that was practical. That was practical,
Oh, okay,
and
right, okay. I thought for
we
a
had
second you were going to say it was you. And I was, oh, wow, okay, that's really clever. But no, practical, I see what you mean.
no, it was me, and it was a practical gag.
Oh,
So
okay,
the funny part is that they built a bra that had these pockets for air that they could
right.
pump in the bottom.
Nike Air type of thing.
What's that?
Like
Yeah,
Nike
Nike.
Air, the shoe, you just pump in. Yeah, they go, oh, okay.
Exactly. So in that moment, it was just this pumping of the air from underneath, and yeah, and we had funny. Oh my gosh, I remember during the camera test. I haven't told this story in a while. For this gag to see if it could work, and I'm in my TX mode of it, and they're testing it, and the one pops in the middle of the one. So I say,
You're
you know,
lopsided.
there is no shame. As an actor, you have no shame.
No, you can't. Like, and these things happen, but it kind of just makes the whole thing more interesting. Because, like I say, because it was a good gag, and I must admit,
Yeah.
people that I spoke to said I'm going to do this interview. A lot of them sort of said, "Oh, you going to about the inflatable boobs?" And I was like, "I'm probably going to bring it up," but now we know. Like I say, it was obviously a practical effect.
Yeah, yeah,
And I mean,
very good.
obviously, with Terminator 3, obviously that was a kind of huge franchise of a Hollywood movie. You also do, like with the the Dark Knight of the Soul, you do more independent movies. Is there a big difference between the two?
Budget. Budget and time is the biggest difference.
Right.
But it's interesting how the film world has evolved through the years,
Yeah.
and continues to change so much, so drastically. It's interesting because also I think technology and the equipment has just gotten so much better. You
Yeah.
don't need the big budget that you used to have in order to get a high
Mm.
quality film. Of course, if you're doing a lot of CGI, you need different budgets for different things, but you don't as much. I mean, I saw a film that was totally shot on an iPhone not that long
Yeah.
ago.
I think
And
Danny
you
Boyle is a big advocate of it. I'm sure that he's doing a new 28 days, 28 months later, and I'm sure I read somewhere that he's going to shoot the entire thing on an iPhone.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I mean, you would never have guessed that it was made on an iPhone. The quality. Also, you can get all these different lenses, because we were talking to the director about it and what he used, and he was, he goes, "Oh, and then a new one would come out, and I'd get that one," and it was just like
Yeah.
it was so innovative in his approach. It was really interesting for the movie, and they had fisheye lenses. I mean, they had everything, that. So I think that's the biggest difference. But I mean, having the time, of course, is golden to filmmaking. I believe when you have that, with Terminator, it was the biggest budget film to date when we made it. I think it was 250 million, and you have the best of the best in every department. And that
Yeah.
was really inspiring for me as a young actor to just be in that company. And I loved Claire Danes. I was a big fan of Claire Danes. So when she came on board, I was so excited to work with her. And she's just such a lovely person, such a talented actress. And we really had a great time. It was ironic because Nick, Claire and I were all the same age. So we were
Okay.
having this kind of similar journey, different places we'd come from in our
Yeah.
careers, but it was neat that we had this camaraderie, the three of us together, and then of course doing publicity all over the world, and yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Awesome. Like I say, I can't even imagine. But it finished the trilogy off nicely. I think, again, I don't know how to sort of phrase this, but did you have any apprehension going in? Because obviously Terminator was a huge movie. Then Terminator 2 is sort of kind of considered one of the best action movies ever made. Was there any trepidation going into Terminator 3 thinking, how are we going to follow that?
No, I mean the short answer is no. I think for me, when you're a trailblazer, so to speak, you really can't put the limitation on yourself. You just have to think, I'm going in there, I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to give it
Fair enough.
110%, and it's it's going to be great. I mean, or you don't know if it's going to be great, but
No,
in order to get
you
to
give
that
it. You
place,
give it your all.
you have to see it being great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You have to visualize it. Like I think anything in life, you have to have the vision first, and you go,
Yeah.
"That's what I wanted to do." I mean, from the time I was 3 years old, I wanted to be an actress. But what did that
Yeah.
even mean at 3? But I had a vision
Yeah.
of it, and I've kept. It's funny. I never even really thought of it this way. So it's a great question. Thank you. If you can't if you can't see it, then you don't know the path to get there, right?
Yeah.
So you have to first see it. And let me tell you, this is not an easy path. I mean, it
Oh yeah.
is you know, being an actor and an artist is not an easy road, but you have to have the belief, and I think that that self belief and the discipline is really what keeps you going.
Excellent. Oh, it's fantastic. And like I say, I mean, it was a career defining role. And like I say, it changed your life. But again, to me, it finished the trilogy off nicely. I know I can't even think how many now, like 8 or 9, is it? They've gone on and whatnot. But as
Yeah, yeah,
Hollywood and franchises, if they make money, they're just going to carry on making more. It's
that's
something we
true.
talk about quite a lot on the Last Movie Outpost. Um, Kristanna, thank you so much for joining us. The Dark Night of the Soul is going to be streaming tomorrow, which is the 12th of November, distributed by Glass House Distribution and Entertainment Squad. And I'm going to put a review up and highly recommend it because, like I say, it was a very interesting movie. And like I say, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Thank you so much, Phil. I really enjoyed your questions, and please share the link with me so I can also spread the word.
Sure thing. Absolutely. Kristanna, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.